Okay, cool. We are looking good. And also the stream looks good. Haha. Anyway, we are going to start doing a thing called Tier List Tuesday. What inspired this is I like horror, as you guys know. I like to stream horror games, and I also like to watch spooky movies. And then I also like organizing things, and I thought a tier list would be kind of a cool way to like mix things up a little bit on my channel. I'm going to go through Saw 1 through 4. How I'm going to be ranking these is obviously going through each person that gets tested will like determine whether or not Jigsaw's reasoning for testing them is like good, if it's bad, whatever. I think that we're qualified to make this ethical decision. I don't know about you guys, but I took humanities courses in college, including an ethics course, so I feel like I'm very qualified to make this argument if someone deserves to be tortured or not. S tier based. Can't even lie, guys. Slight spoiler, but in like revisiting these movies, Jigsaw has a lot of really questionable takes. So I think our base list is going to be very short. A tier, he's onto something. Mostly agree, but it's kind of like maybe something's a little questionable. B tier, so this is like kind of middle of the roads. Some of these, it's literally a person doing their job. Play the game. Absolutely not. Horrible take. So first up to bat, we have Adam. So Adam was in the first Saw movie. We're not going to be starting off very good. What we know about his reasons for being trapped for Jigsaw, like capturing, abducting him, putting him in this place in the first place, is not very clearly said. Jigsaw refers to him at one point, I think, on the tape as a voyeur. He is a photographer. He was like getting paid to like follow him around, take pictures of him and all of that. He was paid by Detective Tap. I'm gonna put him in Don't Hate the Player, Hate the Game, or the job. So the second movie pretty much all has to do with Matthews. He is a corrupt cop or corrupt detective. So this is where it gets a little confusing. Is in Saw 2, it's like, okay, so if everybody is framed by Detective Matthews, did they actually commit these crimes that they're being punished for or something? And that's the thing, is it's like they're being punished for something that they may have done or may not have done. So this is where like there's just a lot. Also, just as like a side note, I was getting my information, if it wasn't actually specifically said in the movie, then I looked at the Saw Wikipedia. A lot of these things are not specified in the actual movies, but in commentary or somewhere else. So just so you know. Addison, she was supposedly a prostitute. If she actually was a prostitute, which, you know, she was being framed by Matthews, so I don't, you know, it's hard to say. But even if she was, does she really need to be getting tested? I mean, come on. I feel like I saw somewhere, I don't have this in my notes, but I thought I saw something or heard something, or maybe it was in the movie. Detective Matthews had like hooked up with her or was going to, and she like said no to it or whatever. And maybe this was like a revenge thing. He arrested her. So I don't know. I'm personally leaning towards absolutely not. Maybe that's just like me just being like, it shouldn't even be like a crime anyway. So now we're jumping to Amanda, which we have Amanda back to back to back because Saw 1, 2, and 3. So in all three of them, she is being tested to a certain extent. She is the tester, but also a testee. The very first time we see her in Saw 1, she has that classic reverse bear trap on her head, and she is being tested, and I quote, she has no appreciation for life. The interesting thing, though, about her test involves her literally killing somebody. She had to retrieve a key for her reverse bear trap. And in order to do that, she had to stab and like basically disembowel some guy in the room to get the key out. He was still alive. Like you could see him like starting to wake up before she actually does it, but clock is ticking. Gotta do what you gotta do. So yeah, this is supposed to give her a newfound appreciation. Well, it obviously doesn't, because she appears to be getting tested again 2 more times. So obviously that method is failed. I'm gonna have to say like that's gonna be an absolutely not for me. So Amanda in Saw 2. So now this is where things start to get very convoluted with how the Saw plot progresses. So Amanda, even though she is being tested, she also is helping with setting everything up. The reason for Amanda getting tested again, because she began self-mutilating, and that's not like hella confirmed. There was just like a scene where it shows like she's cutting herself. Jigsaw was like watching her do that, so I don't know if it was like alluding to maybe he had her do that to make herself look like she is somebody that would need to be tested by Jigsaw so she could be in. I think that she like just wasn't doing good after the first movie, and so she was getting tested again to, you know, because the first time didn't work, let's try it again. Let's take it up a notch though. At the end of the movie, she's revealed to be an apprentice to Jigsaw. I am kind of leaning on to absolutely not again, but I will say third movie, I'm going to be putting it in a different spot. So I'm not going to be just throwing Amanda purely and absolutely not. I'm not a big Amanda stan. I'm going to throw Amanda in Saw 2 also in absolutely not, because evidently it didn't work, and I think it helped to breed the monster that is Amanda Saw 3. So by the time we get to Amanda in Saw 3, she is arguably worse than Jigsaw because she helps to create some of the most unbeatable traps in the series. Jigsaw, like, yeah, like, I mean, he's murdering people too, but there is a little illusion of option for some of his traps. Not all of them, because there are some that are like, bro, no one's gonna beat that. I'm looking at Mark over here. We'll get to him soon. The reason why she is being tested, because Jigsaw knows that she creates some hella rigged traps. These movies sound so dumb. They are, but it's like a fun dumb. Like, you turn your brain off and you just go with it, you know? Her test, all she had to do to be successful was not kill Lynn. She fucked that up pretty much. Jigsaw knew Amanda was setting up unbeatable traps. He considers her a murderer. Did she deserve to get tested? You know, she was a murderer. Based. I'm going to say Jigsaw was actually right about this. Here's the thing. How long did he know she was setting up unbeatable traps? On to Art. This one I think is going to be a job one as well. He was being tested. It didn't really say specifically. A lot of these people don't really give very strong reasons. You just kind of have to go by context of their jobs, of other information provided. But he was a lawyer, maybe crooked. He was very closely connected to John Kramer and his wife. Insta-based. Lawyers get so much grief. It's insane. Someone's got to do it, though. I don't know, because we don't know for sure if he was crooked or not. As ludicrous as, like, this whole thing is trying to rank motives and all that, I'm trying to make this semi-serious. And I would say that unless we know for sure, I'm going to have to say, don't hate the player, hate the game. Art 2.0. Now, the storyline. He ends up having to get tested again. For what fucking reason? I don't even remember. He is getting forced to put together different traps. He has to oversee the entire thing with this detective. Like, Saw 4 revolves around Detective Riggs, as well as a couple of other detectives that are being held hostage, including Donnie Wahlberg, because he isn't dead yet. He's being held captive by Jigsaw. This shit is insane. I'm not making this up. I don't even know why he's being tested. He's still being tested because he's a lawyer or something. I don't know. At this point, I feel like he's just being petty. It's like, bro, you tested him and he won. What more do you want? Next one is actually going to be a bit higher on the list. Brenda's a pimp. So she was trafficking a lot of different ladies and all that. So I'm gonna have to say, based. I think that Jigsaw was based for testing her. Her test was brutal. It was like a scalping thing. Like, she had this hella long braid, and it was like in this machine. It would like start cranking, and so it was like slowly like pulling her scalp off and all that shit. Yeah, so overall, I'm gonna say based because she was a pretty shitty person. So sure, she deserved to be tested. Cecil. So this is also a Saw 4 guy, and Cecil, interestingly enough, he was the first person that John Kramer ever tested. So he got to go through a very rough test. It was like this like face like kind of splitting thing where he had to like press his face forward into like these blades, and the pressure of it would release restraints on him so he could get up and leave. But he like got up, and instead of being thankful for being tested, he lunged at John Kramer, who was sitting there watching him go through the test, like in person instead of a separate room. So he ended up getting killed. The reason why Cecil was being tested is because he accidentally caused the miscarriage of John Kramer's wife's baby. Yeah, he's a drug addict. Yeah, he kind of caused a miscarriage. I'm kind of leaning towards he's on to something, just because, like, if it was just the drugs, I would say, like, no, he shouldn't be here. But he did cause some bodily harm. Kind of leaning towards that, even though there was a very clear bias in this. Danica. So now we're getting into Saw 3 territory. I don't think I was old enough to see Saw 3 when it came out. I'm pretty sure I snuck in because I remember seeing it in theaters, and there's no way in hell my parents would have taken me, so I had to have snuck in. The scene with Danica, I will always remember because she was naked. And I was like, dang. She was like in that freezing like locker, and there was like these water hoses surrounding her, and they would spray her with cold water, and she was basically slowly freezing to death. And by the end of it, she was an ice block. The reason why she was getting tested, it has to do with Slow as Fuck Jeff, because Saw 3 was his storyline. So she was a witness to the accidental killing of Jeff's son, but she took off and refused to testify, which ultimately hurt the case. Did she deserve to get tested? I'm kind of torn between onto something or based. You guys let me know what you think. I'm kind of leaning towards based because she did witness a pretty bad crime, didn't say anything, and it evidently hurt the case. Daniel, Saw 2, is the son of Matthews, Detective Matthews, who the whole thing revolves around like him being a corrupt cop. He's thrown into the house with all these people that Matthews set up, arrested, or just straight up framed. It's either between petty or absolutely not. Daniel, I am kind of leaning towards petty in a way because there was no reason for him to be thrown into the mix with all of these adults and all of that. If I could put it right in the middle, I would, because I feel like it's equal parts petty of like Jigsaw wanting to fuck with Matthews, but ultimately I guess I'm gonna go absolutely not, because Daniel could have died. And also he was like locked in a safe the whole time, like he could have run out of oxygen. It's just like, oh my god. So back to Saw 1, Dr. Gordon. So this is an OG one. His reason for getting tested was pretty lousy. Dr. Gordon was trapped with Adam, and Adam's task is to just survive. Dr. Gordon's task is he has to kill Adam by 6 p.m. or his wife and child will be killed. What is Jigsaw trying to do? Like, this is absurd. And as far as like I can tell from like what the Saw Wikipedia says, what the movie said, the only bad thing that Dr. Gordon was really doing is he almost had an affair. Either petty or absolutely not. I feel like Gordon is a don't hate the player. All right, let's pop him in the don't hate the player for now. Petty works. Okay. Who the fuck was Gus? So he was in Saw 2. What was his reason? So this was a character that I had to do a little digging. By a little digging, I mean like one Google search. According to the Saw Wikipedia, maybe it was drug addiction. I think it was something drug related. Innocent but framed by Matthews. Apparently the razor box trap that Addison ultimately died in was supposed to be for him, even though like there really isn't a lot that's said about him. Razor box, cutting the arms, I don't know. Maybe he hated life. Maybe he self-mutilated and that's supposed to represent it. I'm gonna just go with absolutely not. There really isn't a ton of information, but the information that's available on him seems pretty shitty. Ivan, based. I don't even have to look at the notes. I remember this fuck. So Ivan is in Saw 4. Ivan is a serial lady assaulter. There was a lot of like video footage of it. I don't know if he killed anybody too, but there was a ton of evidence. Ivan was not able to pass his test, and so he got literally torn apart. And I would say he had it coming. So, very good. So the next one is Jeff, which I didn't even realize like that this guy was like even truly being tested. So this was in the first Saw. It's like such a weird test. The detectives, when they figured out the location where Jigsaw is, where the traps are and all that stuff, they show up, they find him under this red sheet, and then Jigsaw comes in, and so they like, you know, they like duck down to like see what's gonna happen. They are able to save Jeff from his trap, which it was kind of a weird one too, because Jigsaw was like in the room with him, and normally that doesn't happen, especially at that timeline. The only indication that there is to know as to why Jeff was getting tested was something Jigsaw said, where he said to him, "Now your life will have purpose." I'm gonna just assume absolutely not. Like, to me, like, that sounds like some bullshit Jigsaw thing to say, like some throwaway comment, "Now your life will have meaning." What the fuck? Who do you think you are? So I'm going to say absolutely not. Next one, Jonas. So this is a Saw 2 character. Jonas, I don't think did anything. I think he was literally framed. Unfortunately, he got killed by Xavier, so he wasn't even killed by a trap. He was literally murdered. He made some comments to make it seem as if maybe Jonas had been in a gang or was affiliated with a gang, either current or used to. It seems like really the only reason why he's there is because he was falsely convicted by Detective Matthews. I'm gonna just have to go absolutely not. The judge, I didn't want to type up his full fucking name, so I'm just calling him Judge because he was the judge in Saw 3. So the judge that oversaw the case of slow as fuck Jeff's son. I'm going to have to say it's a job thing. We already know that Danica was a witness that refused to testify. Why is the judge being tested? It literally is just there for Jeff to have an aha moment and to move on. I will say that the judge's test, or really Jeff's test, was probably like one of the most heart-wrenching ones. The judge has like a collar around his neck. He's pretty much like at the bottom of a pit where there's like an assembly line of pig carcasses that are like going by, getting like grated up and all that, and their sloshy remains are just going to slowly drown him. Disgusting. How Jeff can get the key to release him is by literally incinerating his son's belongings. I remember crying like so much when I first saw that. It was so heart-wrenching. It was so sad. So I actually kind of felt for him in this one, like for him being slow. It was a little understandable because it's like you have to burn your kids' stuffed animals and all this. Like, that's just fucked up. For this one, I'm going to ultimately say hate the job because the judge didn't do anything wrong. He was just going based off of the evidence and all that shit. And if they didn't have a witness testimony, what can he do? The more I hear about this Jigsaw fella, the less I like him. He's a real asshole. I'll tell you what. He's a real jerk. Detective Carrie. This was a sad one because she should have survived. She unfortunately met her maker in Saw 3, thanks to Amanda creating an unbeatable trap. Most of the detectives in this, I guess except for Matthews sucks, but like Rigg and Carrie were two detectives that did their job too well. Carrie, there was really nothing negative about her. It literally was just that, like, she works all the time. My notes for Carrie are as follows. She was too work obsessed. I kind of want to put her in absolutely not, because it's more than just hating the job. She was going above and beyond for her job. Maybe at the cost of her social life, but she seemed happy. So who cares? I think that it really also comes down to the fact that she was investigating the Jigsaw cases. So I think it was a way of, getting her out of the way. Laura, she was a shoplifter, a kleptomaniac, and she was framed by Matthews. So I don't know what that means. If she actually was a klepto, or if Matthews just framed her for one reason or another. But even if stealing was her crime, she did not deserve to be tested for that. I'm gonna put absolutely not. Like, who the fuck, like, sends somebody to their death because they stole a couple of things? Like, that's insane. Not even Nick Cage stealing the Declaration of Independence deserves that. Next up, Lynn. So Lynn is the wife of Slow as Fuck Jeff in Saw 3. She's also a really good doctor, and she has to keep Jigsaw alive. She has this shotgun collar around her neck, and basically it's set up to be paired up with Jigsaw's heart rate. So if he flatlines, then her trap goes off and she dies. Is being tested because she was depressed over her son's death. She was taking antidepressants, which, you know, God forbid, that's a death sentence. And she was having an affair due to marital issues brought on by the son's death. Pretty fucked up, messy situation. Don't blame Jeff for that. Okay, so the thing is she shouldn't have had an affair. Not blaming Jeff for that. I'm just saying, like, obviously the strains on their marriage brought on by their son's death took different effects on both of them. She, like, went one way, he kind of withdrew. Both aren't good considering they still had a living kid. Did she deserve to get tested? Petty, I think. You know what? Fuck it. I'm gonna keep it at petty. Now, this one is very interesting. And this is honestly the inspiration as to why I'm doing this tier list to begin with. Mark from Saw 1. This one's a really funny one. His reason for her being tested in Saw 1, let me refer to my notes. He pretended to be sick to get out of work. Jigsaw said something to the effect of, if you're so sick, why do I see you out and about? The really, really shitty thing too is it's like, okay, so for one, he didn't deserve to get tested for playing hooky, faking sick face. Bro, I would be tested so much. I actually almost got truancy when I was in high school, so that's crazy. That hits close to home. I think it comes down to Jigsaw. He's just a fucking capitalist is what it is. He doesn't want Mark calling out. He's like some corporate scum, probably, is what it comes down to. But Mark got like one of the worst traps. He's like covered in like a flammable gel. He's naked in this room. There's numbers written all over the walls. There's a poison in the air. The antidote is in a safe. Thousands of combination possibilities written around. The only way that he can actually view the numbers on the wall is with a candle that he has to hold. Obviously ignite him if it touches him because he's covered in flammable jelly. And on top of that, there's broken glass all over the floor and he's barefoot. The most extra thing for somebody playing hooky. Unbelievable. I'm gonna say petty because he didn't deserve to be tested, but I'm putting it in petty because it's kind of funny, but it's so fucked up though, you know? Base take. No way. Petty, you're so biased. Okay. Maybe I am too biased for this one because as somebody who has played hooky, who has almost gotten truancy in high school, maybe I'm a little too close, so I will let chat vote on this. So chat, what are you thinking? Base gotta cure the lazy. Oh my god. You guys are so cruel. That's funny. Michael got that like awful like Venus flytrap thing. The key to unlock it is behind his eye. He has to cut his eye open to get to the key. Obviously he can't do it because he's a fucking Sally. So Jigsaw calls him a snitch. I think our opinion of snitches is that they get stitches. I'm gonna say he's onto something. Agree? All right. Now we are at Matthews. So the corrupt dirty cop, also a Wahlberg, so that could be based decision just based on that. He's being tested, obviously, because he's a dirty cop. He doesn't even really have to do anything. It's like Detective Rig in Saw 4. All he has to do is just talk to Jigsaw. Keep him company. I would say based. I mean, he's a dirty cop. He should have been tested. I feel like his test was like ridiculous because it was really testing people that he framed. Obi, or Abi, I think is how his name was pronounced. He actually helped to abduct everybody. I forgot about that, but that was in my notes. He was helping Jigsaw to abduct everybody to get them into the trap. In the commentary, he was revealed to be an arsonist. It doesn't say if he killed anybody. Arson is dealing a lot of damage. I'm going to say based, I'm going to agree with the decision for him to get tested. Back to Saw 1. There wasn't a whole lot of information about Paul. Oh, wait, I forgot about this. So Jigsaw, again, playing God, he said in like the tape that played for him, Paul self-mutilates, cuts himself with a razor, despite there being nothing wrong with Paul's life. Well, you heard it here. I mean, he could have just cured Paul's depression by saying nothing's wrong, and then Paul would have been like, oh, okay, you're right. Anyway, so he was supposed to crawl through the razor wire trap and escape before the poison in the room kills him. I'm gonna say absolutely not. No shits or giggles with this one. I think that Jigsaw was just being a bit of a gatekeeper here. And I think it's not a cute look for him. Saw 4. So this was a very interesting trap because it involves two people. So we have Rex and we have Morgan. They are a married couple. Rex, an abusive parent / husband. Morgan is the abused wife who, through what the tape said, what Jigsaw said, who allowed abuse. The trap has them bound together, back to back, with spikes running through vital parts on Rex, but non-vital parts of Morgan. The test is for Morgan, remove the spikes that bind them, killing Rex, or do nothing and bleed out from inactivity. She ended up surviving. Her husband died. The issue with this is Morgan's being tested because she was being abused by her husband. So that's kind of a bit shitty. Shitty take. Horrible. So absolutely not. Rig. So our detective that we're following around for the 4th movie, he's being tested because he can't let go. He cares too much. He has to do a series of tests dependent on his ability to let go and not do anything. He doesn't listen because he wants to save the other two detectives, Matthews and Hoffman. He believes that they will die if he doesn't do anything, but Jigsaw literally tells him, you need to let go. Your test is to not do anything, don't intervene. He intervenes, and it literally just goes really badly. He ends up failing his test, and he gets Matthews and others killed by acting. Yeah, I'm just gonna throw him in here. Slow as fuck, Jeff. Here we go. So, Saw 3. Now, I don't remember if they specify how many years passed between his son's death. Jeff is angry, he's depressed, he wants revenge against the person in the system that killed his son and or let the killer walk free. He became a drunk and neglectful of his other child, his daughter. He has to complete a series of tests that will test his willingness to forgive. He ultimately fails because he kills Jigsaw, kind of based in itself by killing Jigsaw, and he does it with the saw. He didn't listen. He didn't listen to his wife telling him not to do it because his wife knew that if Jigsaw dies, she dies. So Jeff killing Jigsaw killed his wife too. It was a big fucked up mess. The one time that slow as fuck Jeff doesn't move like a turtle, it is bad. Jigsaw abducted Jeff's other child and had her locked away somewhere with limited air supplies, says Jeff would have to play another game if he wants to save the other kid. I guess there was an intention for more. I mean, neglecting your kid isn't good. Becoming an alcoholic, sure, that's not good either, especially if you have a kid and a wife and a home and all that shit. And he was just grieving. I'm gonna have to say he absolutely not. He should not have been. Like, he didn't even have an affair. He didn't even commit any sins, really. I guess besides drinking a lot, I guess that's a sin. I'm torn. Absolutely not or petty. I'll keep him an absolutely not for now. So, Timothy is the driver that struck and killed Jeff and Lynn's son. From what I recall, like, in, like, what they showed of, like, Timothy, because obviously, like, they showed some stuff involving the crash. It seemed like he was very remorseful. Obviously, it was an accident. And this is also something that I do remember is said in the movie. He did feel legitimately guilty and bad for what he did. He had the rack trap, which was brutal. Evidently, Timothy had a very lenient sentence. Jeff didn't like it. He had to find it in his heart to forgive Timothy, but he was way too slow. So Timothy ended up dying in a very agonizing way. Obviously, he did kill somebody. That's not good. But he went through the process of the law and all that. This one's a tough one because it's like, yeah, he did do something pretty wrong. But at the same time, he paid for it. I'm going to say he's onto something. So next one is Troy. He had an unbeatable trap as well. So this was another Amanda test. According to like what the tape said, Troy was a repeat criminal. They don't actually say what his crimes were, but he came from a privileged background. Like Jigsaw said some shit about, oh, you're always, in and out of the judicial system despite coming from a life of privilege. So I don't know why that makes any difference, but whatever. Troy has to rip these chains from various parts of his body, but then the one that would obviously be like, this is impossible, went through his jaw, like up here and out his mouth and around. So he would have to literally rip his jaw out. Oh, and then the thing too is there is a bomb in the room. So he's in this classroom, he's chained down, and then there's like a nail bomb or something, and he has a certain amount of time to get out of the chains and get out of the room before the nail bomb goes off and blows him up. Even if he somehow did break that chain, the door was welded shut. Did he deserve to get tested? It's hard to say. It said like he was a criminal, a repeat criminal, but what crimes? Were they victimless? I'm gonna go with petty for this one because we don't really know what crimes he did, and also he had an unbeatable trap. That was kind of fucked up. Xavier, so Saw 2, and I think that's the last Saw 2 because Zepp is Saw 1. He was a drug dealer. Maybe he was in a gang. He was supposed to be tested in the needle pit, but he threw Amanda in, so that's kind of a dick move. I'm gonna go based. He obviously was okay with murdering. He killed Jonas. He tried to kill Daniel, tried to kill Amanda. Also maybe based for seeing through Amanda and knowing she was an apprentice and throwing her into the pit to save everybody in the future, but it did not work because she pulled through. Zepp. Oh boy, this was another one. This was another doozy. By doozy, I mean annoying. He worked as I think an infirmary or a nurse or some shit at the hospital where Dr. Gordon worked and where John Kramer got his treatments and diagnosis or whatever. Zepp was being tested because he was jealous of the doctors. And he was not enjoying his own life because he aspired to be a doctor, even though he could not become one. You also can't achieve goals. Don't have a dream. If you got a dream, you're going to get tested. Zepp's test was pretty fucked. He was poisoned by Jigsaw, and he can only earn the antidote if he abducts Dr. Gordon's wife and daughter and kills them if Dr. Gordon fails his test. Which, as a reminder, Dr. Gordon had to kill Adam. That was how he would win. I am going to have to say absolutely not for that one. So for absolutely not, who was the top absolutely not? I think I'm going to put Morgan first. Rex definitely deserved to be tested. Morgan, absolutely not. There's no reason as to why she had to be thrown in there. Second most, I'm going to put Carrie, Rig, Addison next because she was a prostitute and I think that's pretty cool. Rex Morgan should be on petty or he's onto something tier. I guess because it's a duo. Rex deserved it, Morgan didn't, so split the difference. All right. I'll put it top of petty. Maybe the hookers belong in Don't Hate the Player. All right, fair enough. I'll put her in Don't Hate the Player. Good call, guys. Good call. Jeff, we got the most vague fucking reason, so I'm just going to assume he didn't deserve to be there. Mark Tom. Lazy fucker. That'll teach you. That's so fucked up. Amanda from Saw 2 above Amanda from Saw 1. Actually, I'm gonna put Daniel, like, after Jeff because he's just a kiddo. Jonas, I don't even know what the fuck he did. Gus, it's not super clear on like what he did either, so I'm gonna put him there. Is being a klepto worse than hating yourself? I'm gonna put her maybe closer to the bottom. Jeff was a bit neglectful of his kid, so that's gonna put him towards the bottom. Rex and Morgan top of the petty chain. Art was getting tested again for who the fuck knows why. I'm gonna just put him. I think I actually kind of like as it is. You know what? I'm gonna keep it. I think that's good. Prostitute. That's cool in my book. Adam was like a photographer. Like you guys pointed out, maybe he was a snitch. So I'm going to kind of put him towards the bottom. Art is a lawyer, but he might have been a crooked lawyer. So I'm going to put him there. Actually, I got to put Art last. I don't know, because a lawyer is arguably worse than a voyeur. As far as like jobs go, I think that's okay. He did cause a miscarriage for Jigsaw's kid, plus he was a drug addict, so of course Jigsaw hates him. Michael was a snitch. I'm gonna actually put him there. I'm gonna put Timothy at the bottom of this because I think he did feel bad, so keep him in the middle. He made the fatal mistake of not groveling and thanking Jigsaw for helping him to see the light with his wonderful test. Mark, number 1 for based. What a lesson to hammer home to viewers at home. Don't ever call out of work if you're not really sick. I think I'm going to put her down a little bit for now. I'm going to put Ivan up. Ivan will be number 2. Literally like a serial offender is going second after Mark. Brenda's a pimp, so she trafficked people. That's pretty bad. So I'd say she definitely deserves to be pretty high on the list. Xavier is a drug dealer and kind of a shitty drug dealer, and he also killed people while they're people he didn't need to kill. I'm gonna put her at the bottom of the base list. Maybe she's just shy. I'm going to put him higher up because position of power and all that shit. I think I'm going to keep it at that. I think that's good. Thank you guys so much for watching. I appreciate it. Bye.